Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Market Minute. My mission is to help you better understand the latest trends in the U.S. real estate market and share with you my analysis and industry expertise. I want to help you gain an advantage and feel confident whenever you're buying and selling real estate. I'm your host, Mark Salib. I'm a passionate real estate professional, advisor, and investor, and I love what I do. Follow and DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group. Send me an email, mark@thesalibgroup.com. And as always, thank you for tuning in to today's show. All right, everybody keeps talking about millennials struggling to buy homes, and Gen Z, they're entering the market and having tremendous affordability problems. But the group that's really controlling the United States housing market right now are the baby boomers. Not only are the baby boomers the single largest group of home buyers, but they're also the largest group of home sellers. And that really does matter, because when the wealthiest generation in American history starts selling their single family homes, downsizing, relocating, or just buying condos and townhomes, that's going to create a decent ripple effect that's going to cut across the entire housing market. And I'm breaking this down because this is the newest National Association of Realtors report. A report known as the National Association of Realtors 2026 Home Buyers and Sellers Generational Trends Report. And this report has some interesting data points here, including baby boomers made up 42% of all home buyers. And they also made up 55% of all home sellers. So they're dominating the housing market. What they do, right, is determining a lot of what is happening in this housing market, because that's a major, major statistic. And for years, I think that, a lot of people talked about millennials are sort of going to take it over. And they're the young buyers that are coming in and they're going to dominate. And boomers will age out and all this stuff, but it's not really happening. It's actually the boomers are still holding a massive amount of housing equity and just fully owning homes outright, not having a mortgage. The boomers they benefited from decades of appreciation, home price appreciation, and they can buy with cash. They can put down large down payments. But first-time home buyers, they're getting squeezed, right? Younger buyers are really just looking at the housing market like, wow, I can't afford anything here. And it's definitely, a theme that I think we need to pay attention to. Look, first-time home buyers, listen to this statistic. This report is really interesting. First-time home buyers fell to 21% of all home buyers. That's the lowest level since the NAR began tracking the data going back to 1981. 21%, that's it. And the previous year, it was 24%. So it's trending downward, and it's historically low. So why? Well, what we've been talking about, right? Higher rates, higher home prices, higher insurance costs, higher property taxes. There's just not many starter homes available for this younger generation. They're dealing with student debt, and do they have the wage growth to be able to keep up and to be able to afford it? The concept of the entry-level home or the starter home is just kind of slowly dissipating. And it could be a pretty long-term issue, unfortunately. Look, traditionally, throughout the ages, young buyers would buy the starter home and they would upgrade later and then they would downsize. But if they can't enter the market at all, what would happen? Right? When will they move up? Right? They may never get to that point. All right, let's talk about the boomers a little bit. So boomers, what are they selling? Well, in many, and if not most cases, in the majority of the country, they're selling larger single-family homes, right? Suburban houses. And what are they downsizing to? Condos, townhomes, retirement-friendly markets, maybe 55 and over communities, right? So that creates a different shift in supply and demand. How is that? Well, if boomers start making these decisions like, you know what, the kids have moved out, we don't need all this space, too much to maintain, right? Maybe taxes and insurance are too high, or they want a simpler life. I could see more single-family home inventory slowly hitting the market. That's probably the trend we'll see. But I don't think this all happens at once. You know, it's a gradual thing, right? It's not a sudden event. It's not a flood of inventory overnight. It's probably more like a multi-year release of inventory that you would expect to see, you know, in the next perhaps 5 to 10 years. You know, and then where's the trend? Well, when boomers downsize, we talked about, right? Condos could see stronger demand. Townhomes maybe get more attractive. You know, walkability, right? Single story, you know, stairs are not going to be, you know, 2-story homes, maybe not as attractive. So I think as a baby boomer, you know, you're probably going to prioritize lower upkeep, easier travel lifestyle. What else? Proximity to healthcare, closer to family, retirement amenities, stuff like that. You know, so think about what that will mean, what that shift will look like, you know, in the next 5-10 years. And I think that it's also quite impactful to certain places. You know, you look at a place like Florida, you know, a place where many boomers like to retire. You got, you know, you could see a retirement migration. You could see a place where a lot of 55 plus communities, you could see a lot of migration there. A place where there's tax advantages, better weather, things like that, right? Now, of course, Florida has the insurance issues and high costs there. You know, special assessments and all that too, and the condo building. So it's not, I'm saying it's one example. There are other places. There are places like Phoenix and Texas, right? Southern California, you know, where that could be an opportunity. But, you know, Florida is not the only option. I think they're going to become more selective. All right, so what's going on with millennials? So millennials are, to me, getting split into two different groups. Here's what I mean. So there's the older millennials, according to this NAR report, the ones that are a bit older, okay, they have a higher median household income, and they're able to buy some homes, and they're able to move up. Think late 30s to mid 40s kind of age range, okay? The NAR pointed out these tend to be dual income households, families with kids, and, you know, with some already decent equity in their home. But then there's the younger millennials that are kind of in that lower, maybe late 20s to mid 30s, and they're really struggling with affordability. So even the millennial generation itself is kind of splitting into either I'm a homeowner with equity or I'm a renter and I can't afford anything, right? And a lot of that has to do with that sort of that kind of that moment in time almost, right? Right before and right after COVID. As a millennial, if you bought right before COVID, you did okay. If you couldn't yet, and then suddenly 2021 came and 2022 right after COVID, and suddenly you got priced out before you even could look twice in a lot of markets. And so there's that pretty big divide there in just that millennial generation, and that difference there from, you know, late 20s to mid 30s or mid 30s to mid 40s as far as age goes. All right. Also, the NAR in the report noted that Gen Z buyers are increasingly buying without waiting for marriage or kids. Now, why that's interesting is because it is a shift. The highest share of single female buyers are actually Gen Z buyers, including the highest share of unmarried couples. Now, why they found that interesting? Because they point out that it used to be you get married, you have kids, then you buy your house. And now what we're seeing from Gen Z is you buy the house first. And then you kind of build your life around home ownership later. If you need to, you've got your home, or you try to upgrade later. So that it's a little bit of a different order here in many ways. I think that's why they bring it up. It's interesting. It is interesting. Okay. So you got several, I want to call it demographic themes in U.S. real estate to pay attention to that I noticed from this NAR report. First one, housing wealth is definitely concentrated mostly among older Americans, and boomers are still controlling this market. The other theme was the market is more segmented. I've noticed that too when I read the report. Different housing markets are acting differently, whether it's condo, suburbs, Sunbelt, Midwest, retirement markets, it's all different. And their other point is that downsizing could slowly add more inventory. Won't happen overnight, but over the next 10 to 20 years, baby boomers, aging demographics might gradually increase the supply of larger single-family homes. Another theme was that we might see a higher demand in the future, potential future demand growth in things like condos and townhomes and villas or low-maintenance communities or age-friendly housing. I think all of that kind of comes out of the report. It's interesting. I mean, I think the biggest story, it's not just mortgage rates, right, inventory, but demographics, right, is the whole point of this report. Demographics could change and shift where we see the market go in the future. And it's true. It's based on who owns the homes, who's got the equity, who can actually afford to buy and sell, who can move. And if there's, the majority of that generation happens to be baby boomers that can do it. Look, I mean, when baby boomers, they're the wealthiest homeowner generation in American history. If they start shifting their housing preferences, the ripple effects can impact everything from condos to suburban family homes all across the country. Before we end today's show, stop what you're doing and subscribe right now to Real Estate Market Minute Plus. Listen to all episodes ad-free. Get exclusive bonus episodes and content and help support the show's growth, longevity, and future improvements. Go to realestatemarketminute.supercast.com right now. You can also find the link in this episode's show description. Check it out. I know you'll love it. That is it for me today. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. And as always, if you have questions or need specific advice, ideas, or just some help regarding your particular real estate needs or situation, or if you're just looking to buy or sell real estate in Florida, well then DM me on Instagram at The Salib Group, or just send me an email to mark@thesalibgroup.com. Don't forget to leave a rating for the show, follow, subscribe, help others find the show, and be informed and educated about the real estate market just like you. Until next time.